What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. After Sound here, bringing you Splinterlands content every single day. We also stream right here on this channel every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday morning, so come by and say hello. All right, as promised, I did put out the 5 biggest wins for Splinterlands in 2022, so this is the flip side. In my opinion, the 5 biggest misses in 2022. Now, I'm sure with all the salt that's out there right now, there's probably a lot more that you guys would want me to add on this list. But like I said, I took a moment to reflect on it. I took some time because I thought about doing this back to back with the wins video, but I wanted to take some time to really think through what the major things this year were. Based on where the company's ethos are, where the company's direction. And so you'll notice, like, for example, bots aren't on here, although I think that's something that does need to be addressed, but it wasn't necessarily a miss, for example. So you have the list in front of you. I'll use this as a reference as well. So let's go ahead and dive right in. And surprise, surprise, land is number 1. Now, not fast forward, but rewind to about 15 to 18 months ago when the boom for, the metaverse pump, the second kind of double pump for Bitcoin last year really began, and everybody started, piling into Splinterlands. One thing that everybody was super excited about was land. And so here's the thing. When it comes to land, I am glad that the team got out phase 0.5 before the end of the year, and it sounds like we're going to get land phase 1 early next year. But on the whole, like I said, a little bit over a year ago, land was something that everybody was excited about. Land was something that was going to change the game. It was going to revolutionize everything, and people bought land. I mean, they bought into the land hype. I remember I bought my land for $500 each. I think both plots were $500 each at the time. Now, I didn't ape into land the way that I'm sure many others did. And for me, land wasn't it's an investment, right? For me, I looked at it and said, I just want to have a piece of the action. That's all it is, right? I want to have my one digital plot of real estate. And obviously I ended up getting a second one too. But for me, I just wanted to play with it. I don't really care anything else about it. To me, it didn't matter where the price went up or down. I would always hold on to it because I wanted to own land within the game. Now, I'm sure many others have, since that time, all the way back in October of last year through now, have bought land for one reason or another. And the narrative then was like land was coming in 2022. And it wasn't really until we hit middle of the year, we got the roadmap in May, I think, of 2022, where we saw that land had gotten pushed out. And we were expecting land phase 1 by Q3. We were expecting land phase 2 by Q1. So you can see that got pushed out even further. And I think one of the biggest things that criticisms that I've seen in the community when it comes to this was kind of the attitude from leadership when it came to land. Now, I don't disagree necessarily with Aggie when he says, like, they prioritized SPS over land. Okay, that's fine, right? I think I don't see there being an issue with that. It's just we didn't really get nodes. We got governance though, so I don't want to hate on this too much. But some of the criticism that I saw around was like, well, they weren't like upfront with where things were going. I disagree with that. I think that they were. It's just we got it in the roadmap. It was said that it was going to get pushed out to 2022. And now it's getting pushed out to the end of 2020. Oh, sorry, end of 2022. Then the beginning of 2023. Now it's the end of 2023. So to me, like the fact that there was all this hype around land and it didn't deliver, again, that to me is probably one of the biggest misses. Mainly because it's turned into a meme now, right? It's like when land. And I don't doubt that land is still going to be this awesome thing. I know the team is working hard to deliver something awesome. I just fully think that the community is going to get disappointed by it, mainly because I think that their expectations are too high. This has been pushed off so far. So I don't know what this looks like in 2023, but I am still bullish on land as something within the game. It's just when you look at how things played out in 2022, all of the missed deadlines, all of the to people's point, like lack of communication, lack of transparency, and lack of accountability to the deadlines. This is something that, again, I didn't feel necessarily because, I wasn't an OG landholder, but I can understand OG landholders feeling, feeling a little burned by this. And here's the thing. One of the arguments that that will get put out there, especially if you've heard it on the town hall and from the team, is, well, land owners have made so much money, right? So they shouldn't be complaining. On that front, I agree 100%. If you bought land because you were hoping like it'll be an investment, whatever, and you participated in the airdrop and are now receiving SPS, yeah, you can't really say anything. But there's the other part. There's the other side of the coin, which is the people that want to just play land. They bought land because they wanted it from a gaming perspective, and it wasn't delivered, and it's still not delivered, 2 years later. So I get that. And to me, that's the most valid argument. I'm not saying that there's any invalid argument, but that is the most valid argument. And I know there's a lot of people out there that just want to play with land. They just want to see it be a part of the game, and the promise being delivered on it being as awesome as the team is hyping it up to be. So again, it's a miss for 2022. We'll see how it plays out in 2023. But I just feel like, again, it's weird because I put that near the top. And actually, to be honest with you guys, I don't know that this list is in any particular order. But when thinking about what was like, what was the community just screaming about the most this year, it was land. So I felt the need to put it at the top of this list. Okay, number 2 is DEC Supply. And this is something that is actively being discussed this very moment with the whole DEC battery idea, with DEC burns, DEC sinks, all this stuff that's happening. I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I'm sure I could find videos from over a year ago, right? Q4 of last year, so October, November, December, when I remember looking at the algorithm for DEC and saying, there's a ton of DEC that's being printed right now, and it's going to go back to PEG because that's the way that the algorithm was designed. Now, I didn't know at the time that they were going to completely remove the algorithm and turn it into something else with this whole burn mechanism, but the same principle still applies, right? We were printing so much supply for something that had a very hard stop in terms of utility, which was the end of the SPS airdrop. And so I guess part of it is like, not patting myself on the back, but it's like if I saw it, and I wasn't even like, I was only a couple months into the game, but if I saw it back then and I felt like it was going to be a big issue, it just seems like something that should have been caught ahead of time. Now, maybe you couldn't do anything, right? And one of the things that I respected the most out of the team when I first joined was the idea that, like, we put it in the white paper, we're not going to change it now because we respect the white paper. And now the white paper doesn't mean anything because we have governance, right? So at that point in time, I was just like, oh, well, they're sticking to their guns. I really respect this. Like, let's roll. But I'm not going to hold DEC. I'm going to continue to sell out of it. Unfortunately, I sold out into SPS, and they're both down 99%, but that's besides the point, right? So the point being with this is that it's like this freight train that you could see miles away that's coming. And, one of the things is just like, to me, there should have been a little bit more A, recognition, and then B, action taken for the DEC supply as soon as the airdrop ended. And I know the team kind of wanted to let the dust settle, right? And it sounded like, if I go back to town halls from like earlier this year, they were like, well, we'll see where things shake out after the airdrop ends and see where DEC ends up landing. Okay, that's fine. But it feels like we're still waiting for the dust to settle, or maybe we just finished that period like 4 or 5 months later, when that really should have been like a 1 to 2 month analysis of like, holy crap, we have a lot of DEC. We probably shouldn't be printing more in the LPs. We probably should be focusing on more DEC sinks to get in, And so now it just feels like this mad scramble because, of course, land got pushed back. So this like savior in terms of DEC sinks, which is land, is no longer going to be viable for another 12 months. And so, to me, that's just something, like I said, it was a freight train that should have been spotted miles and miles ahead, and then certain actions should have been taken. Sure, if it had not been as bad as the team was expecting, then you don't need to take any action, right? But obviously it was. And so, things like the 70 million DEC that were getting printed for LP rewards, I get it. I know that's why they wanted to do it at the beginning. but it's like it should have been recognized so much earlier. It should, like, people, not me, even though I was championing it. Many folks in Mav chat were saying, like, this is like, why are we printing this much DEC? We should like turn it off as early as like September. I remember seeing some messages in there. So, again, we didn't shut that off until November, and that was only after outrage to the fifth item here, which we're going to get into at the end, obviously. So DEC supply was something that I felt like people should have seen coming. Sorry, when I say people, the team should have seen coming, and really done something about. Obviously, we're here now, and hopefully we'll get it figured out. Okay, number 3, SPS Utility. Okay, this one stings a little bit because it was almost exactly 1 year ago that the team put out a post talking about all of this upcoming SPS Utility that they had planned for 2022. Now, ultimately, that post, if I remember it correctly, wasn't just focused on the utility, which was actually really just Rift Watchers ultimately. It was it was talking about the end of the private investor sale and the end of the airdrop, and how SPS dilution would be significantly less, within the first couple of months of the year, and then by the halfway point of the year with the end of the airdrop. Rift Watchers, we didn't know when that was coming out, but the big news was that, okay, you will only be able to buy SPS or Rift Watchers with SPS, and it's going to cost $5. It can be 3 million packs. We got all that. People got hyped, right? Because like, oh, finally we get some SPS utility. Like, this is going to do some great things for SPS. The surprise this year, the positive surprise, was that they were also selling nodes, because that wasn't anywhere on the roadmap, a year ago and on that post. So we did get additional SPS utility through that, but then that was it. People are calling for player staking. They're calling for other things that you can do with SPS. Sure, you got tournaments and all that, but ultimately SPS utility just is non-existent. And then when the switch was made for DEC to be like the whole SPS burning for DEC, that is something that got people excited, because we saw what happened with Terra Luna, and not, we're talking about the beginning of Terra Luna, not the crash and the death spiral. Sorry. But people got excited about that. But ultimately, at this point in time, there's a second push to do this Rift Watchers and nodes for DEC. We had that proposal, and again, I'm going to get to that at the end because that's a special one. Okay, so ultimately, SPS Utility, in my opinion, kind of in conjunction with DEC Supply, wasn't thought through in the way that I was hoping that it would be, or at least not thoroughly. And I feel like I should just clarify. This is all armchair quarterbacking, right? Like this is hindsight is 2020. So I don't mean to throw shade all over the place, and I'm not trying to call people out directly. It's more just a year in review on the things that we can do better. Okay. So before all of you get excited that I'm like trying to throw the team under the bus, I'm really not. I think that there were certainly things that could have been examined a little bit closer, or should have been examined a little bit closer. But had I been there, I don't know that I would have done the same thing, or that I wouldn't have done the same thing. So like I said, the DEC Supply one I called out because I felt like I was looking at that, but I didn't have all the back end numbers. SPS Utility, that's kind of in conjunction with DEC Supply. If you're gonna burn SPS for DEC, we should probably make sure that that's actually going to happen with all of the DEC that's currently out there, right? So again, SPS Utility, it's pretty much non-existent at this point, unless you want to play in tournaments. It's going to continue falling in price until we can get DEC back to peg. So SPS Utility now remains very much tied to DEC Utility as well as DEC Supply. Okay, number 4. This one, oh God, I'm still upset about this one. The voucher inflation that happened when nodes were given vouchers at a 1-to-1 rate with staking SPS. I mean, it was less than a year before that when vouchers were launched for Chaos Legion. And we were told that all the cool things in the game would require vouchers, and that the only way you can get vouchers is through staking SPS. Now, I remember being super upset with that when it happened. And honestly, I've said this before, like that should have been a huge red flag for me, because I joke about this, and now people are calling me out. Like the Bitcoin maxi and me looked at this and said, like, well, they're changing like the monetary supply or monetary policy for DEC. They're changing the monetary policy for vouchers. Then they changed the monetary policy for SPS. And, again, like all of that stuff should have probably been red flags for me to de-risk my capital at that point, because well, that just would have been the smart thing to do. But instead, obviously, I went all in on nodes because I wanted the yield. I was being greedy. I chased the yield there. But also, I like the idea of supporting the team to get this thing as decentralized as possible, right? So I don't know what's coming in terms of regulation. But I know that is something that is very much on the forefront of a lot of projects, including Spurlands, for like in the front of mind, I should say. And so, if and when that happens, I think having some kind of decentralized aspect to the game is going to be very, very important. But we are digressing so far right now. So let's go back to the voucher inflation. That to me killed vouchers, right? Like it became this thing where, I mean, vouchers, what are they at now? 7 cents. I mean, these things used to be holding steady at $1. They used to be holding steady at 50 cents. Now they're like 7 cents. When they first came out, they were $25, but that wasn't sustainable at all. I think what bothers me the most about vouchers is the fact that they just, I guess similar to other things, were not thought through. Like I thought when vouchers come out, or when the vouchers first came out, it's like, it's going to just be for these releases, right? We have 1 million chaos packs on a pre-sale. We're going to release 1 million vouchers over this period from this to this, and then they're done. And then it was like, okay, well, now we're going to do it double the amount for this phase 2 sale. And it's like, okay, that makes sense. It's still like a pre-sale-ish. Then the general sale happened, and it's like, well, we're no longer gating this with vouchers, but we're still going to print them at 10,000 a day, right? Or 20,000 a day, or whatever it ended up being. I think it's 20,000 a day, and then another 20,000 from nodes. So the thing is with nodes, we're not even going to get into nodes. I'm really focused on vouchers with this. So I don't know what happens with vouchers in the future. Again, as a node license holder and as an SPS staker, I would hate to see them get nerfed in any way. I mean, how much more can you nerf something when it's already down to 7 cents? But again, this is just one of those things where I hope they take a look at the ecosystem of tokens and can figure out a sustainable way for vouchers to make sense and for vouchers to have any kind of value. Because, shout out to Foyer, like they're like coupons. And so if you don't value them, which most people won't necessarily value a coupon unless they need something, well, then that value goes to zero. So, and that's what we've seen, right? Vouchers have essentially gone to pretty much zero. Yeah, sure, 7 cents. But, the only time that coupons are valuable is if there is something to buy with them. And we had Waka, then we had nothing. Then we had nodes, then we had nothing. Then we had Rift Watchers, and then we had nothing. I mean, sure, Rift Watchers is ongoing. Tower Defense is ongoing. The bonus packs for Chaos Legion are ongoing. But we're printing like 40,000 vouchers a day. Like, it's just, of course it's going to go to zero, right? So I don't know what the solution is here, but the voucher inflation and just not really thinking through what the monetary policy should be. And I know Aggie has said, we thought about printing this many vouchers in a bull market. Maybe we should consider doing stuff in a bear market in the future. I think that's a great idea. I don't really like it as an excuse, but I think it's a good idea to just be super conservative, because at the end of the day, if you just put out smaller supply of everything, right, then the demand will always be there and those assets will hold their value. And, obviously another thing that you don't see on here is the amount of Chaos Legion packs, which is really a 2021 miss, but obviously that carried into 2022. Again, I don't necessarily agree with that because I wasn't for the proposal to burn Chaos Legion packs, but I understand the argument, right? Like, I understand the argument that they minted too many, we lost too many players, we got into a bear market. Sure, all of that is gravy. So at this point in time, I hope that when the numbers for Rebellion get looked at, I hope that when the, any changes for vouchers or DEC or SPS get looked at, I hope that's all viewed through the most conservative lens as possible to hold as much, conserve as much value in the assets and tokens as possible. Okay, Let's move on to the last one. I'll close out with this. Like I said, it's a special one. The Rift Watchers and nodes for DEC proposals that came out in November. Now, here's the thing. These got voted down. But I wholeheartedly believe that the damage was done even though they were voted against. The damage was done because the community was lost after this. There was people's confidence was shaken, and following these proposals, we had the layoffs, and following the layoffs, we've had actually some good releases mid-December, right? The 12.13 release, but you can see just with all of the salt that is currently being thrown with this DECB proposal, you can see that the community just is not having it, right? And so to me, that should be included as one of the biggest misses for 2022. It was, in my opinion, inconsiderate. Some may even consider it tone deaf, right? To kind of spit in the faces of the people who just spent a shit ton of money on the Rift Watchers presale. And here's the thing, right? Like, I get it. There's the counter argument to it is, well, you're not looking at the bigger picture. And, we need to get DEC back to peg, and like this would do it really quickly and blah, blah, blah. I'm not here to argue whether or not that would actually be the case. My counter to that counter is, if we're not looking at the bigger picture, like you missed the whole freaking scenery, right? Because that, like, just proposing that lost a lot of people in the community. Now, maybe at the time we didn't know how dire the situation was. We didn't know half the team was going to get let go. Would that have changed things if we did know? I actually maintain that, I said this before. I think if people had found out that, if this doesn't pass, like, we're going to have to make some changes, I think a lot of people would have sold off and left the game. Right. So, that's just what human nature is. Right. So, I don't know where things go from here when it comes to this. I have said publicly, I think that if it were to come back around, I will vote for it, but not because I think it's the right thing to do or that it will work. I just don't care anymore. And to me, I am desperate. I think there is desperation in getting DEC back to peg, because otherwise everything just bleeds out to zero, right? And some people are going to enjoy that. Some people are going to look at that and say, like, oh, it's such an opportunity. It's an opportunity. Yeah, sure. You stick around, it's an opportunity, but at the same time, we don't want to be losing players. We don't want to have this reputation. I want to say we, I mean the community, the game, right? We don't want to have this reputation of being a project that just absolutely got smacked during the bear market. If we survive, and I do have confidence that we'll survive, yeah, things will look good on the other side. But I think what people miss here, and I said this earlier about, I tweeted this about Solana specifically, but I'll say it here within the context of Splinterlands. There were so many tokens that pumped in 2017 that were just a graveyard in 2021. Like, they just didn't ride the bull run at all. And they were the hype. They were the hype in 2017. Now, I don't know. I'm not trying to say that that's exactly what's going to happen to Splinterlands. I am optimistic. I mean, clearly I'm optimistic. I'm still making content. I'm still, trying to do as much as I can for the game, the community. But I do believe that if and when the market turns around, if the Splinterlands economy is not in a position to capitalize, there are a lot of really good other games out there. And when I'm talking about them, I'm talking about them as games, right? And all they need to do is set up some silly airdrop, print money out of thin air like Splinterlands did a year ago with SPS, and they could draw all of the attention. And people are going to look at Splinterlands, and they're going to look at the baggage of Splinterlands history, because you have to understand that sword it's a double-edged sword, right? Splinterlands has been around since 2018. That's great. They can survive a bear market. Splinterlands has been around since 2018, and all their assets have gone to pretty much down 99%, right? Like, yeah, I think I'm going to stay away from that one. You just need to understand where people are coming from. So to me, I think it's actually important to not wait until the bull run comes back around to save us. I think having Splinterlands find a way to thrive in the bear market will only make it so we pump to, in Aggie's words, Valhalla when the bull run arrives. So, to me, this one really lost a lot of the community, and I think a lot of the salt that we see now stems from the loss of confidence. And so I don't know how the team can earn that back outside of just keeping their head down and delivering. And to their credit, in December they delivered. So as we round the corner into the new year, Happy New Year, by the way, and into January, I think there will be a very, very watchful eye from the entire community to see how the deliveries go. All of the things that they may all of the new roadmap and all the projects that will be on the new roadmap, all the deadlines that'll be on the new roadmap. I think that's, there's going to be a watchful eye that really just tracks this and sees if the team can deliver on their promises, which is what they're committing to do. So I'll go ahead and leave this video here. It ended up being a little bit longer than I was anticipating, but I wanted to go into a little bit more depth just because this wasn't supposed to be throw salt and throw shade everywhere. This was trying to be an honest, neutral, unbiased review of some of the biggest misses this year, and hopefully some of the ways in which we can improve on that for 2023. So I remain optimistic on Splinterlands. I remain optimistic on this community, on the team. I think that January and February, and I guess Q1, will be a good barometer on how we can move forward. But one thing I will say, and I know I've gotten a lot of pushback for this, try to see if you can let this one go. The Rift Watchers / nodes for DEC proposal. If you can remove that from your memory, does that change any way in which you feel about the DECB proposal? And I'm not even saying to vote for the DEC battery proposal. I'm just trying to see how much of the negative response to the DECB proposal, and really any other proposal that comes in from a tokenomics perspective, is going to be shaded by the salt people feel from that. Because I'd like to believe that, the team has an ear to the ground and is, Weirdbeard is in the chat. Weirdbeard isn't really talking about tokenomics, but either way, I do feel like the team is listening, and I do feel like the team is trying to make good on their promises. So let's give them a chance and see what they can do. If you don't want another token, that's fine. Oh, this video is totally out of left field now. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and end it here. We're not going to talk about DECB anymore. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Did I get all of the ones that you had on your list? What are the ones that I missed? What are the ones that you would like to add? I would love to hear that, and we can continue the conversation in the comment section below. I'll catch you all in the next video and see you around the game. Take care.